My name is Ava, and I never thought my normal life would turn into such a mess in just 1 week. I'm 29 years old and married to Ethan, a kind man who works as a software engineer. We live in a cozy apartment in the city, not far from Ethan's mom, Lillian. While Lillian has always been part of our lives, she's also caused some tension. But I never thought she'd turn everything upside down. It all started on Monday morning. Ethan had left for work, and I was getting ready for a presentation at my job. The apartment was quiet until I got a text from Lillian. "I'll be stopping by later, hope you don't mind." She often came over unannounced because she had a spare key. It bothered me, but I never complained for Ethan's sake. Still, something about her message that day didn't sit right with me. That afternoon, I came home from the grocery store and felt uneasy. The sofa cushions were out of place, some magazines were moved, and I could smell Lillian's lavender perfume in the air. I called Ethan to ask if his mom had been by, but he said, "She probably just checked on the place. Don't worry about it." I tried to brush it off, but when I walked into our bedroom, my heart sank. The closet door was open, my clothes were messy, and the jewelry box on my dresser had been moved. Nothing seemed to be missing, but I felt uneasy. I told myself maybe I'd left things that way, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. At dinner, I told Ethan what I'd noticed. He listened but shrugged it off. "Maybe she was looking for something," he said. "You know she doesn't mean any harm." His casual attitude upset me, but I didn't push it. The next day, I got another text from Lillian. "I'll be dropping by again, don't wait up." This time, I stayed home to confront her, but she never showed up. When Ethan came home, I told him about her message and how she didn't come by. He looked confused but didn't seem worried. That night, I couldn't sleep. Around midnight, I heard a faint noise in the living room. My heart raced as I woke Ethan. "Someone's in the apartment," I whispered. We tiptoed to the living room, but when we turned on the lights, it was empty. The door was locked, and nothing seemed out of place. "You're probably just tired," Ethan said, trying to calm me down. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The next morning, I searched the apartment and found that the drawer where we kept important documents was open. Our passports and some bank statements were missing. Panic set in as I called Ethan. "Our documents are gone," I said. "What if someone's been breaking in?" Ethan stayed calm. "Maybe my mom took them to keep them safe," he said. "She's just trying to help." His words stunned me. "Why would she take our personal things without asking?" I asked, but Ethan didn't have a good answer. That evening, I called Lillian to ask about the missing documents. She denied everything at first, but then admitted, "I took them for safekeeping. You should be thanking me." Her tone made my blood boil. I hung up, angry and frustrated. Over the next few days, the tension between Ethan and me grew. I felt betrayed that he wouldn't stand up to his mom, and he accused me of overreacting. Then one night, things took a turn for the worse. Ethan and I went out for dinner, hoping to ease the stress. When we came home, the door was slightly open. My heart sank as we walked inside. The living room was a mess. Cushions were thrown around, drawers were open, and things were scattered everywhere. Someone had broken in. When we checked the bedroom, my jewelry box was gone, along with other valuables. On the bed was a piece of paper that read, "Stay out of this." We called the police, who came and inspected the apartment. They asked if we had any enemies, or if someone else had a key. I mentioned Lillian, but Ethan quickly said, "Let's not jump to conclusions." The police advised us to change the locks and install a security system, which we did the next day. For a while, things were quiet, but I couldn't relax. One day, while organizing the closet, I found a small box hidden under a pile of clothes. Inside were the missing passports and bank statements. My hands shook as I realized someone had hidden them there. I showed Ethan, but he brushed it off again. "Maybe my mom put them there for safekeeping," he said. "You're making this a bigger deal than it is." His refusal to see the problem pushed me over the edge. The next day, I went to Lillian's house unannounced. She opened the door with an icy look. "What are you doing here?" she asked. I confronted her about everything, the documents, the break-in, the mess. At first, she denied it all, but then she snapped. "Fine," she said. "I took the documents. I was just trying to protect Ethan. You're not the only one who cares about him." Her words stunned me. "You had no right," I said. "This is our life, not yours. You've crossed the line." As I turned to leave, she grabbed my arm and hissed, "You think you've won, but you don't know what you're up against." Her threat sent chills down my spine. When I got home, I told Ethan everything, but he defended her again. "She's just looking out for us," he said. "Why can't you see that?" The final straw came when I realized my grandmother's heirloom necklace was missing. I knew Lillian had taken it. I confronted her, but she just smirked and said, "You can't prove it." Desperate, I set up a hidden camera in the apartment. A few days later, the footage showed Lillian entering our home while we were gone and searching through our things. With this evidence, I called the police. Lillian was arrested for theft. Ethan was heartbroken, but I knew I'd done the right thing. "I can't believe you do this to my mom," he said. "She's your family too." "Family doesn't betray each other," I replied. "She left me no choice." After that, Ethan and I couldn't fix our marriage. We divorced, and I moved out. Now I'm rebuilding my life, free from the stress and betrayal. I've learned to trust myself and stand up for what's right. It's not easy, but I'm ready to start fresh and find peace. Starting over wasn't as easy as I thought. The silence of my new apartment felt heavy. I often found myself replaying the events, wondering if there was anything I could have done differently. But then I reminded myself, I had to stand up for myself. My boundaries were important, and letting someone step all over them wasn't love. One day, as I was unpacking boxes, I found a photo of my grandmother. She was wearing the heirloom necklace that had been stolen. Tears filled my eyes, but they weren't just for the loss of the necklace. They were for the life I'd left behind, the trust that had been broken, and the peace I was working so hard to rebuild. I decided to focus on creating new routines. I signed up for yoga classes at a nearby studio. I spent time exploring the city and discovering parks and coffee shops I hadn't noticed before. Slowly, I began to feel lighter, more like myself again. One evening, as I sat by the window with a cup of tea, I thought about what I'd learned. The experience with Lillian and Ethan taught me that even family can cross lines, and when they do, it's okay to say no. It's okay to walk away. I had let things slide for too long, hoping they would get better. But change doesn't happen unless you make it happen. Months passed, and I started a new job at a small marketing agency. My coworkers were friendly, and I found myself enjoying the challenge of the work. For the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful about the future. One day, as I was leaving the office, I bumped into an old college friend, Emma. We hadn't seen each other in years, but it felt like no time had passed. We grabbed dinner that night, and I told her everything that had happened. She listened without judgment and reminded me of my strength. "You've been through so much, Ava," she said. "But look at you now. You're standing tall." Emma's words stayed with me. They reminded me that I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. I was building a life where I could feel safe, respected, and happy. And that was worth everything. Now, when I look back on everything that happened, I feel a sense of pride. It wasn't easy to stand up for myself or to walk away from a marriage that wasn't working. But I did it. And in doing so, I found my voice, my strength, and my freedom. Life isn't perfect, and I still have moments of doubt. But I know one thing for sure. I deserve happiness, and I'm not afraid to fight for it. This is my story, and it's only